Intern answers call in Korean. The next day, the director takes her to a secret meeting. Jessica Wilson never imagined her language skills would completely change her life when she accepted an internship at Thompson Trading Co., an import business in the heart of New York City. The 22-year-old had only been working at the front desk for 3 months when it all began. It was a Thursday afternoon when the phone rang for the 10th time that day. Jessica answered with the same professional tone as always, but on the other end of the line she heard a desperate voice speaking in Korean. All the other employees passing by the reception area simply ignored it, but she responded fluently, calming the person on the line. "Hello, please don't worry, I understand what you're saying," Jessica said in perfect Korean, her gentle voice contrasting with the desperation of the call. The woman's voice on the other end trembled with relief upon hearing someone who finally understood her. It was an elderly woman, crying as she spoke about her son, repeating a name Jessica couldn't quite make out due to the heavy emotion in her accent. Michael Thompson, the company's CEO, happened to be walking down the hall at that exact moment, carrying a stack of documents. His steps slowed when he heard the conversation in Korean. He stopped completely behind the reception desk, his eyes widening in absolute shock. The call lasted about 10 minutes. Jessica managed to calm the woman, promising she would try to help her find who she was looking for. When she hung up, she felt a presence behind her and turned to see Michael standing there with an expression she had never seen before. "Mr. Thompson, is something wrong?" Jessica asked, noticing his face had lost all color. Michael didn't answer right away. He stood frozen, as if he'd seen a ghost. His hands trembled slightly as he held the papers. "That call, where was it from?" he finally managed to ask. "It was an elderly woman from Seoul, South Korea. She was looking for someone here in the United States, but the call dropped before I could get all the details. She seemed very distressed." Michael swallowed hard and nodded quickly, as if he wanted to drop the subject as soon as possible. "I see. Thank you for taking the call," he said, though his voice came out harsher than intended. The next morning, Jessica arrived at work as usual, right at 8 o'clock. She had barely turned on her computer when the executive secretary, Ms. Margaret, appeared at the reception desk with a serious expression. "Jessica, Mr. Thompson wants to see you in his office, now." Jessica's stomach tightened. In 3 months of interning, she had never been called into a private meeting with the director. Had she done something wrong with yesterday's call? She went up to the 10th floor, where the executive office was. Michael was waiting behind his mahogany desk, but this time he didn't have his usual confident posture. He looked like he had aged 10 years overnight. "Please, sit down," he said, gesturing to a chair in front of the desk. Jessica sat, her hands nervously clasped in her lap. "About yesterday's call. I need to know exactly what the woman said." "Well, she was very upset, speaking quickly. She said she was looking for her son, that she hadn't seen him in many years. She mentioned he came to the United States when he was young and that she never heard from him again. She was crying a lot." Michael closed his eyes and took a deep breath. "Did she say his name?" "She did, but I couldn't quite understand it with her accent. It sounded like Park or something like that." It was as if lightning had struck Michael. He abruptly stood from his chair and walked to the window overlooking bustling Broadway. "Park Jung-woo was my birth name," he said, his back turned to Jessica. "I changed when I arrived in the United States 30 years ago." Jessica felt the ground drop beneath her feet. The call wasn't from just any stranger. It was from the mother of the company's own director. "Mr. Thompson, I left Korea when I was 22, continued Michael, still staring out the window. "My family was going through terrible financial struggles. I was the eldest son and felt it was my responsibility to find a way to help. I came to the United States with the promise that I'd return in a few years, once I'd earned enough money." He turned to face Jessica, and she could see tears in his eyes. "That was 3 decades ago. I never went back. I never called. I cut all ties because I was ashamed I hadn't made my fortune quickly like I'd promised." The silence in the room was deafening. Jessica didn't know what to say in the face of such an intimate and painful confession. "Why are you telling me this?" she asked softly. "Because I need your help," said Michael, sitting back down. "My mother, she's still alive. She must be over 70 now, and it seems she's still looking for me. Dear listener, if you're enjoying the story, don't forget to like and especially subscribe to the channel. It helps us a lot as we're just starting out. Now, back to the story. Do you want me to talk to her if she calls again? No, Michael shook his head. I want you to pretend to be my daughter. Jessica nearly fell out of her chair. What do you mean? All these years, my mother must have built up an image in her head of my life here. She probably imagines I have a family, children. If you pretend to be my daughter on the calls, I can find out how she's doing, if she's well, if she needs anything, without having to face the disappointment in her eyes. But that's a lie, Mr. Thompson. I can't deceive an elderly woman who's suffering. Please, Michael's voice came out almost as a whisper. It's the only way I can think of to know how she is without having to explain why I abandoned my family. Jessica looked at the man in front of her and saw no longer the confident, successful director who ran the company, but a lost son tormented by guilt. If I do this, what will you offer in return? Your permanent contract, a starting salary of $5,000, full health benefits and profit sharing. It was a tempting offer. Jessica came from a humble family in the Bronx. Her mother, Mrs. Rodriguez, worked as a housekeeper, and her father had left when she was a child. The money would make a huge difference in their lives. I need to think about it, she finally said. You have until tomorrow, but if you accept, you'll need to start immediately. I'll give you my private number so my mother can call you directly. That night, Jessica came home carrying the weight of the decision she had to make. She lived with her mother in a small apartment in the Bronx, where every penny was carefully counted. How was work today, sweetheart? Asked Mrs. Rodriguez as she prepared dinner. Mom, if I told you I had a chance to earn $5,000 a month, but to do it, I'd have to lie to someone who's suffering. What would you do? Mrs. Rodriguez stopped stirring the beans and looked at her daughter carefully. It depends on the lie and the suffering, Jess. Sometimes the truth hurts more than a well-intentioned lie. But it's not right to deceive people, is it, Mom? Sweetheart, you studied Korean in college because you wanted to help people. If this lie could ease someone's pain, maybe it's not so wrong after all. The next morning, Jessica went to Michael's office. I'll do it, she said, but on one condition. What? If at any point I feel I'm doing more harm than good for your mother, I'll stop immediately. I agree. Michael handed her a paper with a Korean phone number and some basic information about the family. My mother's name is Kim Youngja. She's 73 years old. My father passed away 10 years ago. I have a younger sister named Park Ji-yeon, who must be 45 now. And how should I introduce myself? As Park Jenny, my 22-year-old daughter. Say you're the child of my American wife and that you know Korean because I taught you. 2 hours later, Jessica's phone rang. It was the number Michael had given her. Hello? She answered in Korean. Oh my God! Exclaimed the voice on the other end. Are you my granddaughter? Jessica's heart clenched at the pure emotion in the woman's voice. Yes, Grandma. I'm Jenny, Daddy's daughter. The crying on the other end was pure joy. I knew it. I always knew my son was okay. How is he? Where do you live? Is he happy? Jessica swallowed hard, remembering Michael's instructions. Daddy's fine, Grandma. He has a company here in New York City. We're very happy. New York City? I always imagined he'd be in a big city. And your mother, what's she like? My mom is American, very loving. Daddy always says she reminds him of you. Oh, what joy in my heart, exclaimed Kim Youngja. How old are you, my dear granddaughter? 22, Grandma. The same age your father was when he came to the United States. Fate really is something incredible. During the conversation, which lasted over an hour, Kim Youngja shared stories about Michael's childhood, how responsible and determined he was from a young age. She spoke about the poverty they faced, how he always promised he'd find a way to help the family. He was always my pride, she said. Even when he left and never sent word, I knew in my heart he was okay. A mother feels these things. When Jessica hung up, she had to hold back tears. She rushed to Michael's office to tell him about the call. How is she? he asked anxiously. She seems well, but Mr. Thompson, she talks about you with so much love, so much pride. She never blamed you for anything. Michael leaned on the desk as if his legs couldn't hold him anymore. Did she say anything about money? About needing help? No, quite the opposite. She said she saved everything she could over the years, hoping one day you might need something. My God, Michael murmured. The calls began happening 3 times a week. Jessica created an entire fictional life for herself as Kim Young-ja's granddaughter. She talked about her studies, outings with her father, how he taught her Korean on weekends. With each conversation, Kim Young-ja shared more details about life in Korea. She said she lived alone in a small apartment in Seoul, received a modest government pension, and attended activities at the local church. Your Aunt Ji-yeon still lives nearby, she said during one call. She has 2 beautiful children, your cousins. We always talk about you. Oh really? What do you say? She always says she'll find a way to contact your father. She's always searching on social media, asking friends who've traveled to the United States. It's a relentless search. A shiver ran down Jessica's spine. There was someone else looking for Michael, someone who could uncover the truth at any moment. After a month of calls, Jessica grew increasingly uneasy. Kim Young-ja had grown very attached, sending gifts by mail asking for photos of the family. Mr. Thompson, this can't go on, she said during a meeting. Your mother is getting her hopes up, making plans to meet us in person, and your sister could find out the truth any moment now. Just a little longer, Michael pleaded. I need time to decide what to do. Time for what? To come up with more lies? No, to find courage. You don't understand, Jessica. When I left Korea, I promised I'd return rich within 2 years. 30 years have passed. How can I show up now and say it took me 3 decades to achieve some success? But you did it. You have a thriving business, employ 40 people. That's nothing compared to what I promised. They expected a miracle and all I managed was an average life. Jessica realized the problem wasn't Michael's financial situation, but the shame and wounded pride he'd carried for decades. During the 5th week of calls, something shifted in Kim Young-ja's tone. Jenny, sweetheart, I need to tell you something, she said, her voice frailer than usual. What is it, Grandma? I went to the doctor last week. They found something in my lung. Jessica's blood ran cold. What did they say? It's serious, my dear. I'll start treatment, but the doctors aren't very optimistic. That's why I need to speak with your father as soon as possible. Grandma, don't talk like that. I'm not afraid, Jenny. I've lived a long, good life. But I need to see my son one last time. I need to tell him I forgive him for everything and that I've always loved him. When Jessica hung up, she was shaking. She rushed to Michael's office and knocked urgently. Mr. Thompson, you need to listen. Your mother is sick, very sick. Michael froze as he heard the details. He sank heavily into his chair, face in his hands. She asked to speak to me? She did. She said she needs to see you one last time. I just can't. Then I can't keep lying anymore, Jessica said firmly. I won't let a woman who might be in her final moments die without speaking to her son. Please, Jessica, just a little more time. No. She slammed her fist on the desk. No more running. Your mother doesn't care how much money you have. She just wants her son back. Michael stood abruptly, furious. You don't understand. You have no right to judge me. I do, because I'm lying to a wonderful woman who just wants to love her son, because I have a mother too, and I know how I'd feel if she was sick and I couldn't be there. You're suspended, Michael said coldly. I don't want to see you in this company again. Fine, Jessica shot back. At least I'll sleep with a clear conscience. She grabbed her things and stormed out. But even suspended, Jessica couldn't stop thinking about Kim Young-ja. 3 days later, using her own phone, she called Korea. Grandma, it's Jenny. Oh, my dear, I've missed you. How are you and your father? Grandma, I need to be honest with you about something. For 2 hours, Jessica told the whole truth. She explained she was an intern who spoke Korean, that Michael was too afraid to reach out, that he'd never married or had children. To her surprise, Kim Young-ja wasn't angry. I knew, she said softly. Mothers sense these things. From the first call, I could tell you were a kind person trying to help my son, I don't care that you're not my blood granddaughter. You've touched my heart, and that's enough. You're not upset. I'm sad my son still fears me after all these years, but I understand. He was always proud, even as a boy. And your sister Ji-yeon? Ah, yes. Actually, she got his company's address 2 weeks ago. She's planning to show up in the United States. Jessica nearly dropped the phone. What? She saved for years for this trip. She'll be in New York City in 10 days. Dear listener, if you're enjoying the story, please take a moment to like and especially subscribe to the channel. It helps us a lot as we're just starting out. Now, continuing, Jessica knew she had to warn Michael, even though she was suspended. She called the office, but he refused to take her calls. She asked Ms. Margaret to pass along the message, but Michael said he didn't want to hear anything from her. Desperate, Jessica decided to go to the company in person. The security guard recognized her and let her upstairs, even though he knew she was suspended. She found Michael in his office, looking even more worn out than before. "What are you doing here?" he asked without looking up from his papers. "Your sister is coming to the United States. She arrives in a week." Michael jerked his head up. "How do you know that? I spoke with your mother. I told her the truth about everything." "You did what?" He stood up, furious. "I did what was right. And you know what she told me? That she always knew I wasn't your daughter, but she didn't care because she saw I was trying to help. I can't believe you. Your mother doesn't have much time, Mr. Thompson, and your sister is spending all her savings to come see you. You can keep running, but now they know where you are." Michael walked to the window, his shoulders shaking. "I don't know what to do," he finally admitted, "except that they love you for who you are. Stop thinking you have to be perfect to deserve your family's love." That night, Michael called Jessica. Can you help me figure out what to say when my sister arrives?" "Of course." Over the next few days, Jessica helped Michael rehearse different ways to explain his 30 years of silence. He was as nervous as a child. "What if she hates me?" he kept asking. "Then at least you'll know you tried," Jessica replied. On the morning of Ji-yeon's arrival, Michael could barely focus on work. He kept staring out the office window, as if expecting to see her any minute. At 2 in the afternoon, Ms. Margaret knocked on the door. "Mr. Thompson, there's a Korean woman at reception asking for Mr. Park Jung-woo." Michael froze. Jessica, who had returned to work that day, took his hand. "You've got this," she said. They went down to reception together. Ji-yeon was there, a delicate-looking woman with black hair tied in a bun and simple but well-kept clothes. When she saw Michael, she started crying. "Oppa," she called out, using the Korean word for older brother. Michael couldn't move. He stood there, tears streaming down his face. Ji-yeon approached slowly, as if afraid he might disappear. 30 years, she said in Korean. 30 years looking for you. Ji-yeon. I'm sorry, Michael managed to say, also in Korean. Why? Why didn't you ever come back? Why didn't you ever call? I was ashamed. I promised I'd come back rich, and it took me so long to achieve anything. Ji-yeon cut him off with a tight hug. You idiot, she said, crying. Do you think we cared about money? We just wanted to know if you were alive. Jessica watched the reunion with tears in her eyes. The entire office reception had stopped to witness the emotional scene. How's our mother? Michael asked when he finally pulled away from the hug. She's very sick, Oppa. The doctors say she only has a few months. Michael nearly collapsed. I need to talk to her. She's been waiting for your call for 30 years. That afternoon, Michael called Korea for the first time in 3 decades. Jessica stayed in the room for support, translating when needed. Uma, he said, when his mother answered, using the Korean word for mother. Silence stretched on the other end before soft crying began. Jung-woo? Is it really you, my son? It's me, Uma. I'm so sorry it took me so long to call. It doesn't matter. You called now. That's what counts. The conversation lasted 3 hours. Kim Young-ja told him about all the years she had spent saving money, hoping her son might one day need it. She shared how she collected news about the United States, always hoping to spot a photo that could be of him. Michael, in turn, told her about his struggle to build a life in the US, how homesickness consumed him, but how pride kept him from returning without achieving what he had promised. "My son," Kim Young-ja said at the end of the call, "do you know what my greatest accomplishment in life was?" "What, Amma?" "Raising a son brave enough to cross the world in search of a better life. That makes me prouder than any amount of money ever could." When they hung up, Michael was completely transformed. For the first time in 30 years, the weight of guilt had lifted from his shoulders. Ji-yeon stayed in the US for 2 weeks. During that time, she and Michael talked about everything that had happened over the past 3 decades. She told him about her marriage, her 2 children, and how their mother had always kept his room exactly as he had left it. "She never lost hope," Ji-yeon said. "Even in the hardest times, she always said you'd come back one day." Michael made a decision that surprised everyone. He would travel to Korea to see his mother in person. "I can't let her go without her forgiving me face to face," he told Jessica. "She forgave you a long time ago. But I need to forgive myself, and I can only do that by looking into her eyes." Jessica was promoted to executive assistant and given responsibility for running the company while Michael was in Korea. It was a huge responsibility for someone who, just 3 months earlier, had been an intern, but Michael trusted her completely. "You gave me my family back," he said the day before his trip. "I don't know how to repay you." "You don't have to repay anything, just be happy." Michael's trip to Korea lasted a month. He called the company every day with updates. In the first few days, he spent all his time at the hospital by his mother's side. She was very frail but radiant with happiness at having her son back. "She's fighting her illness with a strength the doctors can't explain," Michael said during one call. "It's like seeing me again gave her a new lease on life." Michael also met his nephews, Ji-yeon's sons. They were 15 and 17 and fascinated by the stories of their uncle who lived in the US. "They want to visit New York City," Michael shared. "Ji-yeon said they might come for vacation here next year." During his 3rd week in Korea, Michael called with unexpected news. "Jessica, I'm staying longer." "Why? Did something happen?" "Ji-yeon's import business is struggling. She never told me, but it's on the verge of bankruptcy. I thought I'd help her, maybe create a partnership between our companies." "That's wonderful." "And there's more. My mother has improved a lot since I arrived. The doctors are surprised. They say her emotional state has greatly influenced her response to treatment." When Michael finally returned to the US 2 months later, he was a changed man. No longer the bitter, guilt-ridden person who had left, he seemed at peace with himself. He brought back dozens of family photos, gifts from his mother for all the employees, and an ambitious plan to expand the business. "We're opening a branch in Seoul," he announced at the first meeting after his return. "And we're creating an exchange program so American employees can work in Korea and vice versa." Jessica was chosen to lead the exchange project, a responsibility she never imagined having when she was just an intern answering phones. 6 months later, Kim Young-ja made her first international trip at 74 years old to visit the United States and her son's company. She was enchanted by New York City, especially the Korean community in Koreatown. "It's like having a piece of Korea here," she told Jessica during their tour of the neighborhood. Kim Young-ja's visit lasted 3 months. During that time, she became something of a company mascot. All the employees adored her, and she loved telling stories about Michael's childhood. "He was always stubborn," she'd say, laughing. "Once he made up his mind, nothing in the world could change it." "Some things never change," Jessica teased. Dear listener, if you're enjoying the story, don't forget to like and especially subscribe to the channel. It really helps us newcomers out. Now back to the story. During his mother's visit, Michael made another decision that surprised everyone. He asked Kim Young-ja to move permanently to the United States. "I can't let you go back to Korea and be alone again," he said. "But my whole life is there." "Your whole life is where your family is, and now your family is here too." Kim Young-ja accepted the offer with tears in her eyes. Michael bought an apartment near his, so she could have independence but still be close by. The adjustment wasn't easy at first. Kim Young-ja struggled with the language barrier and cultural differences. Jessica became her constant companion, helping her navigate life in New York City. "You're like the granddaughter I never had," Kim Young-ja told Jessica during one of their outings. "You're like the grandmother I lost as a child," Jessica replied. The company grew exponentially with the Korean partnership. The exchange program was a success, and dozens of young people from both countries had the chance to broaden their horizons. Michael became a fierce advocate for immigrants' rights and began funding support programs for those arriving in the US without family or resources. "I know what it's like to be alone in a foreign country," he'd say during his talks on immigrant entrepreneurship. Ji-yeon opened a branch of her company in New York City and moved to the US with her children the following year. The family, separated for 3 decades, was finally reunited. Kim Young-ja adapted perfectly to American life. She learned English with Jessica's help and became a familiar face in her neighborhood. Every morning she'd go to the corner bakery and chat with the owner about soccer, a subject she'd grown to love. "The United States is a country that welcomes people," she'd say. "I understand why my son fell in love with it." During her second year in the US, Michael threw a big party to celebrate her 75th birthday. He invited all the company employees, neighborhood friends, and even some members of the Korean community Kim Young-ja had met. It was at this party that something unexpected happened. Mr. Walter, the owner of the bakery Kim Young-ja visited every morning, approached her during the celebration. "Ms. Young-ja, could I talk to you for a minute?" "Of course, Mr. Walter. Would you like to go to the movies with me sometime?" Kim Young-ja blushed like a teenager. "Mr. Walter, are you asking me out on a date?" "If you don't think it's too forward of me, I think it's adorable," she replied, laughing. Michael, watching from a distance, was surprised at first, but then smiled. His mother had spent decades alone. She deserved to be happy. The relationship between Kim Young-ja and Walter developed slowly and with great affection. He had been a widower for 5 years and was charmed by the Korean woman's joy and wisdom. "She has an incredible story," Walter would tell his friends. "She raised her children alone, crossed the world to reunite with her family. She's a courageous woman." "And he's a good man," Kim Young-ja would say about Walter. "He reminds me of my late husband in his kindness." 6 months later, Walter proposed to Kim Young-ja. The ceremony was simple but emotional, celebrated with both American and Korean traditions. Michael cried throughout the entire wedding. "I never thought I'd see my mother so happy again," he told Jessica. "Life has these surprises," she replied. Jessica also had her own surprises during that time. Jin-ho, one of the Korean exchange students who came to work at the company, fell in love with her from the first day. "You saved an entire family," he said during their first date. "How could I not fall for someone like that?" "I didn't save anyone," Jessica answered. "I just did what was right." "Exactly why?" Their relationship grew naturally. Jin-ho decided to stay permanently in the United States and requested a permanent transfer to the New York City branch. "I found not just a job here, but a whole life," he explained to his parents in Korea. 2 years after that first call in Korean, Jessica and Jin-ho married in a ceremony attended by all of Michael's family, company employees, and even friends Jin-ho had made in the Korean community of New York City. Kim Young-ja and Walter were the couple's sponsors. "It's as if they were our own children," Kim Young-ja said emotionally. Michael had not only found his lost family, but had also built a new extended family with people fate had placed in his path. The company continued growing and became one of the leading importers of Korean products in the United States. Michael opened branches in other cities and always kept the exchange program as one of the company's pillars. "It all started with a phone call," he said, during an interview for a business magazine. "If Jessica hadn't known Korean, if she hadn't had the courage to answer that call, none of this would have happened." "Do you believe in fate?" the journalist asked. "I believe things happen when we're ready for them. My mother called at the right time to the right person, just when I was finally mature enough to face my fears." Kim Young-ja lived 8 more years in the United States, far longer than the doctors had predicted when she was in Korea. She said the joy of having her family reunited had given her extra years of life. In her final months, she spent most of her time telling stories to her adoptive grandchildren, the children of Jin-ho and Jessica, born in the following years. "Grandma Youngja, tell us again the story of when Grandpa Michael was little," the children would ask. "Oh, you love that story," she'd say, always happy to repeat the tales. On the day Kim Youngja passed away at 83, she was surrounded by the family she had reunited with and the new family she had built in the United States. Her last words were of gratitude. "Thank you for giving me the best years of my life," she said, holding Michael and Jessica's hands. The funeral was a celebration of the life of a woman who never gave up believing in family love. Not only relatives and friends attended, but dozens of people whose lives she had touched during her years in the United States. Michael inherited from his mother a box containing all the letters she had written to him during their 30 years apart but had never sent. There were hundreds of letters, one for every birthday, every Christmas, every important moment she had imagined he was living in the United States. "She never stopped communicating with you," said Jessica when Michael showed her the letters. "She was just waiting for you to be ready to listen." After his mother's passing, Michael established the Kim Youngja Foundation, dedicated to helping immigrant families reunite and supporting elderly people living alone in foreign countries. "I don't want any mother to go 30 years without news of her son," he said during the foundation's launch. Jessica became the foundation's director, temporarily leaving the company to dedicate herself to the social project. Within 5 years, the foundation had already helped over 1,000 families reunite. "Every family reunion we make possible is a tribute to Grandma Youngja," Jessica would say during the foundation's presentations. Jin-ho became the company's general manager, taking over the responsibilities Michael gradually delegated to focus more on the foundation and his family. Ji-yeon opened a language school specializing in Korean and Portuguese, serving both Americans who wanted to learn Korean and Koreans who needed to adapt to the United States. "Languages are bridges," she would say, "and bridges are meant to unite, not divide." Ji-yeon's children graduated from American universities and decided to stay in the country. One became an engineer, the other a lawyer specializing in international law. "We're the second generation of the Park family in the United States," they joked. Walter kept running his bakery, but now also sold Korean products that Kim Youngja had taught him to make. The place became a gathering spot for the local Korean community. "Mrs. Youngja left me more than recipes," he told his customers. "She left me a new way of seeing the world." 10 years after that first phone call, Jessica organized a special meeting at the company. She invited all the employees who had been present the day she answered the phone in Korean. "Do you remember that day?" she asked during the meeting. "How could we forget?" Ms. Margaret replied. "It was the day that changed everything here." "No," Jessica corrected. "It was the day we learned that everything can change when we have the courage to answer when life calls." Michael, now with completely white hair but eyes brighter than ever, stood up to speak. "I spent 30 years running from my family's love because I was afraid I wasn't good enough. I've learned that love has no requirements. It doesn't need achievements, it doesn't need proof, it just takes courage to accept it. And I've learned," Jessica added, "that sometimes life puts us in situations that seem complicated, but they're really opportunities to make a difference in other people's lives." The company decided to create Connection Day, an annual event where all employees were encouraged to reach out to loved ones they had grown distant from. "If each of us makes a phone call, sends a message, or reaches out to someone we love," Michael said, "maybe we can prevent other families from spending 30 years apart." On the first Connection Day, the company recorded over 200 family reconnections among employees and partners. Childhood friends who reunited, siblings who started speaking again after fights, parents and children who overcame old misunderstandings. "It's amazing how one simple call can change everything," Jin-ho remarked. "That's exactly what happened to us," Jessica replied, looking out the company window where it all began. The story of the Korean phone call became legend at the company and inspired employees of all ages to cherish their families and relationships more. New interns always arrived curious to see the reception desk where the miracle had happened. Jessica always made sure to tell the full story, emphasizing that there was nothing miraculous about it, just people willing to do what was right. The real miracle, she would say, is when we stop making excuses and start creating solutions. Michael never let another day go by without speaking to someone in the family. He called Ji-yeon every morning, visited his mother's grave weekly, and always ended family conversations with the words he learned from Kim Young-ja. Love doesn't wait. Love acts. End of story. And you, dear listener, have you ever been in a situation where a simple action completely changed the course of events? Share your story with us in the comments. If you enjoyed this tale of overcoming challenges and family reunion, leave your like and, most importantly, subscribe to the channel so you don't miss other heartwarming stories that touch the soul. Your participation means so much to us.